Good morning. This is Glimpses of Grace and Glory, and we're here today in Elkins Park, Pennsylvania, at one of the most wealthy mansions probably in centuries. This is one of the biggest mansions in the state of Pennsylvania. It was started in 1897 and completed in 1900 by Peter Widener. Peter Widener built this mansion at a cost of approximately $8 to $10 million. In the 1980s, I was privileged to take a tour of this mansion with my brother when it was owned by Faith Theological Seminary, and Dr. McIntyre took us for a tour. I never saw such magnificence. Upstairs was an art gallery with stained glass skylights, beautiful staircases, a ballroom with gold gilt columns and Italian marble. This place was full of grandeur and magnificence. It has a carriage house. It was built by Peter Widener, and he was predeceased by his son and his grandson. This was completed in 1900. Both his son and his grandson died when the Titanic went down in 1912. And then after suffering long illness, Peter himself died in 1915. The structure here has changed hands many times. They sold off most of the 400 acres to try to maintain the building, and has been predominantly empty since the 1940s. It was bought by Faith Theological Seminary in 1952 just for back taxes, I think $56,000. And so they continued to sell off items in the interior. This was built, it's a 70,000 square foot mansion, 110 rooms, a ballroom big enough for 1,000 guests, swimming pool, wine cellars, a farm, carpentry and upholstery studios, electrical power plants. There was an article in 2014 by the Philadelphia Inquirer describing this mansion as dripping with silk, velvet, gilded moldings, rooms furnished with chairs from Louis XV's palace, Persian rugs, Chinese pottery, halls crammed with art by Raphael, Rembrandt, El Greco, Van Dyck, Donatello. This place had an art gallery that had the largest collection of European art probably in the country. And yet today we see it in ruins, and it has lay in ruins for years. And we just want to encourage you, as we talked the other day about God in Psalm 139, 15 and 16 said he wrote out your whole life before you were born, when you were in your mother's womb. And this just is one example of serving money and serving this world. This world is temporary. It's not our home. And I don't say this to down anybody, but I think it's so sad to see the epitome of wealth standing here vacant. A short period after being completed, the family passed away, 2 on the Titanic, and then from poor health 15 years after the completion, after parties that were beyond rich and wealthy. Wealthy people came from all over to the magnificent parties and these expensive ballrooms with gold gilt columns, Italian marble, the finest of food. The wealthy of the wealthy were here, and it has been in ruins for all these years and still sits in ruins. So may we let the Lord work in our lives to choose the path that he has for us. Abraham dwelt in tents. He dwelt in tents with Isaac and then with Jacob, his grandson. They never owned a foot of land in their lifetime, and yet they looked for a city that had foundations, whose builder and maker was God, as did Moses, who walked out of the palace of Egypt to suffer affliction with the children of Israel. And we want to see that it's not about this life. Let us set our affections on things above. Where our treasure is, our heart will be also. So may our treasure be in heaven, where moth and rust does not corrupt and thief does not break through and steal. What would it profit to gain the whole world and lose our own soul? I don't know whether this man's soul was saved or not, but I can tell you one thing. The path of wealth did not prosper the family whatsoever. The property went out of the family's hands and has laid vacant and in ruins for all these years. So may we choose the path of Jesus Christ and know that we have an eternal home and a new heaven and new earth with Jesus forever. God bless you.